Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Chair Salmon. We are live.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of December 1st, 2021. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, and I'd also like to welcome alternate director Kate McNeil today. Looks like we have a fairly light agenda, and so I'll turn to the first item on the agenda, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item is approval of the agenda. However, I understand that there are some additions and deletions. So there is the addition of 2 new business items. The first new business item is a grant and aid for Electoral Area A. The second new business item is a verbal report from Director Morrison regarding an AVICC resolution. And I understand that staff wish to pull item R2.
Yes, thank you. So that's 3 changes. Got a motion to approve the agenda. Moved, seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, to the next item, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is the adoption of the minutes, and the recommendation before you is that it be recommended to, that the minutes of the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of November 17th, 2021 be adopted.
Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, please, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next is business arising, and there is none. And the next item after that is public input, and I'm just checking, and we have no public input at this time.
Okay, thank you.
We have no delegations. We move to correspondence. Item C1 is a grant and aid request, Electoral Area B, Shawnigan Lake, regarding the CMS Food Bank Society, and the recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid Electoral Area B, Shawnigan Lake, in the amount of $1,000 be provided to CMS Food Bank Society to support the expenses for services to the Cobble Hill, Mill Bay, and Shawnigan Lake communities.
Okay, thank you. That's been moved, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, if I could just interject here, I'm going to stop my video because my lunch has just arrived and I'll be chomping on that in the background.
Director Wilson, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Harrison, should we add the other grant and aid to this section or wait till the end?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You can reorder the agenda and bring the new business item number 1 forward at this time.
Yes, okay, maybe I'll do that since it seems to fit in with this section.
Okay.
So
item NB1, moving forward at this time. And it is a grant and aid for the Mill Bay Nature School PAC, and the recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid for Electoral Area A, Mill Bay, Malahat, in the amount of $500 be provided to the Mill Bay Nature School PAC to assist with costs associated with earthquake kits and a new dishwasher.
So moved.
it's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item, Ms. Harrison, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is a verbal request from Director Atkin to attend the Impact Sustainable Travel and Tourism Conference 2022, and that item is for direction.
Great, thank you. Director Acton, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, this conference I thought was quite interesting, and how things are changing on the island, how we are currently having more travel restrictions, et cetera. So I think this is actually going to have a lot of valuable information on sustainability and impacts of tourism and how we move forward with a pandemic and global climate change, et cetera. So I guess it has come to the committee because it's more than $500. And I guess I would have a question to staff. If this is purchased, I would go ahead and book this right away. It would come out of the 2021 budget. And I guess that's a question. Would it come out of this budget instead of next year's budget?
Okay. You want to staff have an answer for that? There we go. Ms. Weiner, please.
Through the chair to Director Acton, any conferences that are in the future year has to come out of that year's budget. So it's the year of the conference, so it would have to come out of the 2022 budget.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I would also add that I am no longer going to the LGLA conference in Richmond. So if that's something that's pertains to people's decision. Anyway, I'd like to move the recommendation if no one has any questions.
Yeah. Oh, there's Director Smith, please.
Thank you. Director Atkin, can you just advise me what the total cost is on that? And then I have some questions for staff. Is if there's travel involved, is the travel when you not under under that budget 250? There's sort of a couple of different categories. So would part be covered under the travel, part be under the conference? Just so we know, because we made a lot of changes on the budget 250 for 2022, and I just want to make sure that we're going to be able to cover everything.
Okay, thank you.
So did you have a
first?
Yes, thank you.
You're muted, Director Acton. Director
I
Acton,
wasn't
can't hear you.
going to get a hotel or anything. It's just in Victoria. So my expense would just be the conference, which is around $800 and gas.
Okay, thank you. $800. And then Ms. Weiner, you had responses to Director Smith?
Yes, thanks to through the chair to Director Smith. Yes, there's travel, and the travel would be for those expenses that would be associated with that conference. The conference fees are typically for registration fees.
Okay, was that Director Smith? Okay. Director Wilson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. First question is to staff. Perhaps Ms. Mohan, I see she's there. I'm just wondering whether there's going to be any of the CVRD staff attending here, such as ECDEV or anybody that's involved in this kind of development type thing.
Okay, Ms. Mohan?
Through the chair to Director Wilson, I'm not aware of any, but I could inquire.
Yeah, if you could, please. And then the second question would be to Director Acton as to what benefit this would be to the group, to the CVRD as a whole.
Director Acton?
Well, I think anything with a tourism perspective would benefit all of us at the Committee of the Whole. And just like yourself and Allison have done other conferences that may not be exactly what are typical to directors, but just bring another perspective. This budget item is also, we could easily bring forward what was the balance from this year over because we haven't gone to a conference in a while, although I think a couple people have, but in general we haven't been going to any, so if those are concerns.
Okay, follow up.
Yeah,
Dr.
follow up,
Wilson.
please, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I have no I have no problems with you attending at all. I think it's probably a good idea. I just needed to know those two things, whether there would be staff, and I think Miss Mohan is going to look into that as well, and roughly what the benefits would be to the group as a whole. But thank you very much for your answers.
Great. Okay, thank you. So seeing no further questions, Director Acton, did you have a motion?
Oh, I guess my motion was read? Okay, thank you.
Is that right? Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that Director Acton's request to attend the Impact Sustainable Travel and Tourism Conference be approved.
It's been moved and seconded. Director Yanni DiNardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just wondered, do we not put an amount or something in there for, it just says be approved. Do we not put an amount, or is that how we normally do it?
Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Yanni DiNardo. The policy says anything over $500 requires board approval. There is no requirement to have a dollar amount. Just anything over 500 requires board approval.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. No further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. So we'll move to the next item, please, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is information, and there are 3 items under that category. They are the Electoral Area B, Shawnigan Lake Community Parks Advisory Commission minutes of October 14th, 2021. The Electoral Area D, Cowichan Bay Advisory Planning Commission minutes of November 1st, 2021. And number 3, Electoral Area E, Cowichan Station, Satlam, Glenora Advisory Planning Commission minutes, November 9th, 2021. And those are all items of information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on those 3 items? Director Morrison.
It's, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's more to process. There were apparently individuals who were concerned that the minutes or one of the items didn't appear on the agenda, which they clearly didn't. And I've run into this confusion before where we will have item number 7. It'll say information IN1, and there will be a number of items listed underneath there that it's looking like it indicates there's one item. And there could be several. I would just ask if staff might be able to give us on our agendas some sort of different indication that would trigger not only us but members of the public to look in and know that there would be more items than what looks like just one. So it's just a direction through to staff if they can look into that and perhaps provide some clarity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if staff would like to. Mr. Elf, I'll take that under advisement, I assume. Mr. Elf?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think that the comment perhaps refers to the fact that there is an agenda that goes before the APC that is posted to the CBRD public portal, and there may or may not be attachments to that agenda. And so the reference in the minutes may be to information that was included in the agenda that wouldn't be obviously readily available in the minutes, because of course the minutes are a record of what was done, not what was said. So we could perhaps provide a link within the minutes back to the agenda. I would have to check with Ledge Services to see if that would be a possibility, but that might make it a little bit more clear.
Okay. Director Smith.
Thank you. What I found was the Electoral Area E APC minutes indicated that there was attachments, and I'm not sure. Were they they weren't to be included, their attachments weren't to be included in the minutes. Is that what you're indicating?
So
Ms. Charles?
through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Smith. Director Smith actually asked this question earlier, and yes, that's correct. So we don't include attachments to minutes. We get our knuckles wrapped by legislative services if we did that. So the appropriate place for attachments is on the agendas. So that's where you will find that information.
Dr. Smith?
So to me, I think that the Electoral Area E, APC, they had a lot of comments with regards to the bylaw 4379 and 3544. And they were sent to us sort of externally by one of their APC members. And there was a lot of really interesting information in there. So it sort of, we're looking for feedback on these two bylaws. And I think that's really important. And maybe they misunderstood that they should have put something, like, I want to make sure that we hear what they have to say. And maybe it wasn't written correctly or that in the minutes, because it just shows order of business. And then they aren't saying that they recommend. So, I mean, I just want to make sure, because I really found the attachments definitely extremely interesting, because all our APCs are going through this process. And if we don't receive the feedback from each APC with their information, then how were these minutes maybe could have been done in a different way for us to receive their feedback?
Okay, Ms. Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as I stated, the information was included as an attachment in the agenda that was discussed by the APC. Staff have yet to report back on the matters that were referred to the APC. When we do that, we can point the committee to that information, or we can append it to our staff report so that that information will be readily available to both the ASC and to the general public. We also felt that the information was incredibly useful and beneficial, and look forward to sharing it with you in a more fulsome form.
Great, thank you. Ms. Mohan, did you have something to add? No? Okay. Dr. Smith, is that suitable?
Yes, I think that's very suitable. I look forward to that report coming forward. Thank you.
Good, okay, well, thanks for that discussion. And we can now move on to reports. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item R2 is a report from the Development Services Division regarding application number DP 20E18 for 3041 Allenby Road, PID 003867391. And the applicant is in the lobby, Mr. Rick Buckles, and I'll just admit him.
Thank you. So do we have an introduction from staff first? Is that, oh, Ms. Pressman, very good, okay.
Thank you. I've been asked to present this application on behalf of the community planning manager. However, the report was prepared by the manager of development services, Frank Limshu.
Okay.
This proposed development is located on Allenby Road, just north of Boys Road and Craftsman Collision. It's approximately 0.07 hectare property zoned I1 industrial and is located within the City of Duncan water system, the Eagle Heights sewer system service area, and Eagle Heights fire service area. There's currently no existing drainage servicing or infrastructure for this property, but on-site stormwater retention and dispersal is proposed and shown in the site plan. The proposed development is approximately 335 meters square footprint industrial building for proposed auto repair and inspection use with surface parking at the front of the building between the front parcel line and the building. Included with the report is the site plan and structural and architectural plans, as well as the geotechnical report addressing the floodplain area as well as other site conditions. This report, or sorry, this development and permit application was reviewed by the Area E Planning Commission at their October 19th meeting. We've attached the landscape plan showing some landscaping near the front parcel line. And the recommendation is that it be recommended to the board that development permit number DP 20E18 for 3014 Allenby Road be issued.
Okay, thank you. So if you could take that screen down, we'll see if there's any questions for staff. Yeah, Director McNeil.
Yes. I just like to suggest that subject to the applicant would be adding appropriate architectural detail to improve the facade. Maybe that's already been included in the plan. Could you speak to that?
Okay, Ms. Pressman.
I could help out if you want.
Go ahead,
Through
Ms.
Mr.
Pressman.
Chair, if the applicant wants to respond to that.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Mr. Buckles?
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, when we discussed it, it's a pre-engineered metal building and there's not a lot you can do there. We did talk about possibly doing an entry feature, but it conflicts with parking. So what we've been doing up at the Tanzer Industrial Park in North Cowichan is we've been adding canvas awnings over all the windows and doors, not the overhead bay door, but the man door. So we've shown that on one of the 3D plans that are included in the package. And that was suggested. We discussed it at the APC, and they thought, okay, this would be, something that we could sort of make it look a little bit better.
Okay, so Director McNeil, does that answer your question, or did you have a follow-up?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for either staff or Mr. Buckles? No, okay, looks good. So we do have a recommendation. And I think we're okay with that if Director McNeil, yeah, okay. So do I have a mover for that? Director Kuhn, second. Okay. All right. Don't see any further discussion, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Buckles. All right, we can go to the next item then, Ms. Legault, or Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item was item R2, which was pulled at the adoption of the agenda. But I was wondering if you would like to bring forward the new business item number 2 to this point in time, which would be a verbal report.
Yes, I think we should do that. So that's Director Morrison.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been quickly trying to get something in writing for our corporate officer to have for our record. This is an issue that I am essentially asking the committee to recommend that we do an ABICC resolution, and it has to do with the valuations for private managed forest lands. And it's come to my attention in some of the work that I do external to the CBRD that the formula that's used to calculate the valuations, not the tax paid, but the valuations of Class 7 lands, and there's a lot of them in this regional district, has been under review for a number of years. And as part of that, there has also been a, when I say it's a very complex formula, there's a portion of the formula that relates to the actual land value. There's a portion of the formula that relates to harvest levels and profitability, those sorts of things. I've been at this 13 years and I still don't have a perfectly clear understanding of how BC assessment calculates Class 7 valuations. But I do know that the Class 7 valuations, the amount that the private forest companies pay in taxation has been dropping in the electoral areas. It's come to my attention that there has been a review going on for a number of years that they are trying to come up with a fair, understandable formula that is, you know, easily understood and digested by members of the public. You don't have to be an accountant to understand how the valuation is arrived at. And as part of that process, there has been a freeze on the land component of the calculation, which anyone keeping an eye on what real estate values and land values are doing, clearly there would be a significant rise in the values of lands as a part of that calculation. I believe 2021 will be the third year of this freeze. I also understand that there has been some progress made in the development of a new formula, and that for some reason unknown to me, that BC assessment has not been moving forward in the production and implementation of this formula. So knowing that we're in budget, that we have, a lot of us have a significant portion of our requisition come from the private managed forest lands taxpayers, I was wanting to ask that staff develop a resolution for consideration at the ABICC convention and hopefully at UBCM in the fall, that will not only urge BC assessment to conclude the work that's been done, but to take the work that has been completed and to implement a fair and understandable formula, and to bring the valuations of the private managed forest lands to a current level that would include the, you know, the reasonable market value of forest lands. So it's a complex area. I know that our staff have a fairly good understanding of the issue, and I would ask that we produce a recommendation to the board that would have staff work to develop a resolution that would go to the board and then be submitted to ABICC. I've provided the corporate secretary with some wording, but would be more than willing to, I'm not an expert in the field, and I would be more than willing to answer any questions if directors have any questions on what's being asked.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we should hear the wording first and then see if they have any more questions or discussion. So, Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board that staff research and develop an ABICC resolution for submission to the 2022 ABICC Annual Convention that, number one, presses BC assessment to conclude its Class 7 valuation formula review, and number two, to produce and implement an understandable, fair, and transparent Class 7 valuation formula.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Director Kuhn? No? No. I see it, Director Martman. I'll just deal with Director Kuhn here, whose mic is not turned on.
Oh, is it on now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to move it, that's all.
Okay. So that's been moved and seconded. Now I'll go to Director Martman.
Thank you, Chair, and through to Director Morrison. I was just interested in, has anybody actually contacted BC Assessment and their position on this?
Director Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was in contact with BC Assessment at a recent convention. Not sure. I think it was AVICC, but was in contact with them. Received an email which indicated that their process wasn't complete, and that and this is unofficial, but I would be my electoral area was looking at a further 10% decrease in the Class 7 valuations. And that's some of what spurred me to take on this issue.
Thank you.
Just a follow up.
Yes.
Just a follow up, and I guess I bring this up because you know, done informally, and I appreciate, and this is you know, asking staff to do work towards something that I think is a no brainer, perhaps, but at the same time, we should be working from something that's formal. If we can get something from BC Assessment that would, you know, give us some, I guess that's perhaps what staff will do, and confirm that this is exactly what needs to be done.
Yes, Director Morrison.
Yeah, I think this is what CAO Carruthers had indicated, that we bring our ideas to committee and put them to staff for the research and development of a resolution.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, I'd like to call the question on this one. Everyone's clear on the resolution? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So I think Ms. Harrison, we're down near the end. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we dealt with all the new business items earlier in the agenda. The next item would be question period, and I have no applicants for that. So what we would entertain is a recommendation to go into closed session under Community Charter subsection 1F and 1G.
Thank you. That was moved, seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good. So we will log out of this, and I think we've got another link for closed. So we'll see you all in about 1 minute, hopefully. Thank you.